When Jeff Bridges was 13, he scrawled 3 sentences on the door to his bedroom that would haunt him for many years. As the Globe witnessed, Jeff, a Hollywood superstar, was concealing a dreadful secret. He experienced panic episodes. Before 2 scenes, in garages, he hid to stay away from his dad. His heart still beats at 75.148 during the filming process, which was greater than when cancer was being treated. It was only recently that he finally spoke up at a significant awards event. What he revealed everyone in a state of shock. His confession clarifies why he nearly gave up acting several times and why not become famous felt appropriate. Bridges, Jeffrey Leon, was born on the 4th of December 1949. Since both of his parents were actors, rather than Jeff's baby blankets and gentle lullabies early on, movies were all around us. Lights and create a soundtrack. At the age of 6, at the age of months, his parents took him to a movie set. The film was titled The Chick Keeps Company, and it was released in January of 1951. The filmmaker required a sobbing infant for a single scenario. Thus, Jane Greer gave birth. Jeff wept immediately after receiving a small pinch. It was the ideal scene. In the studio, his name wasn't even on the record. He was simply referred to as Crying Baby. Later on, Jeff jokingly said that his first payday in life most likely went directly to diapers and infant formula. However, he was unaware that the path to Hollywood had already started before he had a chance to speak. As Jeff's father, Lloyd, became older, Bridges felt conflicted about the show. Company. He was well known particularly for filling the movie High Noon, yet hadn't have complete faith in Hollywood. About he sat in 1957 or 1958, and his older brother Bo came down and shared something with them. Unexpected. According to him, the majority of actors made $5,000 annually. He even possessed printed figures to support it. Thus he said them to concentrate on their studies. No performing roles, unless they have better grades than a B+. He even recommended that they consider switching from acting to engineering. For years, such rule persisted in the house, and it caused Jeff to reconsider his desire for stardom. It sowed the silent dread that perhaps the acting was insufficiently steady. As soon as Jeff was 13, something changed. He didn't desire to be recognized as Lloyd's son. Thus, in 1963, he scribbled with a marker. "Not an actor," he wrote on the door of his bedroom. He began working as a painter at Brentwood Art Center. And sold his first $35 worth of August 9, 1964 canvas. Additionally, he founded the surf rock group named playing in small fairs, the Nozzles Santa Monica. Bo, his older sibling, was studying the scripts for acting, but Jeff was learning the brush and chords for the Guita motions. His art awards from high school still remain in his studio now, dating back to 1966. This wasn't only a phase for Jeff, it was a communication. He was unwilling to follow a route simply because it was simple. He wished to discover anything genuine on his. However, Los Angeles in the 1960s weren't limited to music and art. There were drugs and parties. By the age of 16, Jeff, before math class, he smoked marijuana. He experimented with LSD in the summer of 1967. Up into Panga Canyon during jam sessions. On September 3rd, one evening, Polly stopped him. A bug was discovered in his Volkswagen Beetle. Since he was a minor, instead of making an arrest, they called his father. Him. However, the family was frightened. Dorothy, his mother, Bridges, forced him to begin weekly therapy sessions. Lloyd himself took him to 2 treatment sessions at Malibu in October. Later, Jeff mentioned it felt as though he might soon miss their lives off. It was the first significant reminder. The lectures were not functioning, so Lloyd made an attempt. When nearly in the year 1968, during breakfast, he made a witty comment. He informed Jeff that performing could be a means of everything. Paint, play music, and fly airplanes. Without having to enlist in the armed forces or a group. Infinite lives, one job. That thought stayed with Jeff. It produced acting is not a trap. It sounds like freedom. Jeff soon took a brief acting part in Sea Hunt, his father's show, headed in part to purchase a new guitar string. Lloyd silent the trick had been successful. Jeff was present, but that pledge to behave freely remained with for life. However, he took his time into Hollywood on a full-time basis. On May 12, 1967, when Jeff was just 17, he entered a military office and became a Coast Guard member. Keep it to yourself. The 8-year commitment was made. He was spared from the Vietnam War because of it, but slowed down his cinematic career as well. He spent weekends removing rust from buoys and doing shifts at midnight. Later he claimed that it was torture. However, the timetable gave him enough time to take action while he filmed the last at that time. 1971's picture show, Thunderbolt, and Lightfoot 1974. He received nominated for both Oscars. He wore his attire and pursued accolades at Thekking. Finally, in 1975, he quit the Coast Guard. As it happens, that was the year the United States abolished the draft. In 1967, additionally, Jeff had traveled by Greyhound bus to studying at Herbert Berghoff in New York studio. The school had a reputation for being difficult. Jeff didn't care about taking acting classes, not much for that. He was more thrilled by street art and music venues. He brought his panorama camera, and he spending time photographing in subways and conversing with painters and musicians. He omitted the rehearsals in order to enter the open cafe where hosts Mike Nights. He was only there for a few months before going back home. However, he even gave him a line in that brief period of time might inform his parents at any time when they questioned whether he was performing for real. Despite being nominated for an Oscar, Jeff nearly turned to go. In 1972, he purchased a seaside property in Malibu and rented Avon a studio, not for film production, but to paint the ocean and create no gallery objective, no record deal. All he wanted was a break and some space. He said he may skip the next few with his dad. Films, and then all of a sudden big roles began to appear. That pause didn't endure for a long time. By 1973, his announcement of his resignation alarmed the interest. A meeting was conducted in their living room of a house. Dorothy is always the center of the household. Withdrew a journal in which she documented all of Jeff's jobs and auditions. Lloyd reminded Jeff how he could utilize all of his skills in acting Dorothy went on to say that everyone they needed Jeff and supported one another to continue rowing beside them. A couple of days Jeff later accepted a part in the movie Iceman Cometh, which he had already seen decline. The director even went to his studio to persuade him. That's a slight shove returned him to the summer of 1975 was when Montana's Paradise Valley. Bridges Jeffless, 25 years old and filming an Odd Little Rancho Deluxe, is a comedy. One, he noticed a woman when he looked up in the afternoon, traversing the eating area at the Hotel Chico Hot Springs. She possessed a newly set nose and black eyes, but Jeff was unable to look away. He continued, telosing his lines. The crew made jokes about it each time he made a mistake on a tape, and between shoots, he approached an Inquaretto eat dinner with her. No, she said. Her Susan Jeston was an economics student who works there to make some. No, she said to him. Perhaps I'll see her around. This town is quite small. The moment stayed with him. 3 evenings later at the wrap, they danced together. Celebration. It was lovely, but awkward. They refused to let go. The following morning, they went to view ranches along the river. Jeff still has a picture of that day with him within his wallet. It's like a time, he says, device that transports him to the time when he knew he had discovered the one. In 1976, he was cast in The King Kong by Paramount. Portrays Jack Prescott in a remake. The spending plan was $24 million, making it the largest, most costly film produced at the time. The promotion cost more than $8 million. Huge bonuses were promised if it made about $60 million globally. Nobody thought it would, but the first weekend generated $70,239,921 from $974 movie theaters, the largest Christmas beginning in the past. After 10 days, it had earned more than $26 million already. It reached almost $90 million at the end. There was a cost to that achievement. Jeff was confined to advertising, interviews, and contract negotiations that lasted over 2 years. He jokingly said that the enormous ape didn't took his bank, so just grab a female account and refused to release it. Then arrived 1977. Susan had supported him at Orth Mayhem. She once glanced at him and declared, "I'm going to have kids and establish roots with you or without you." That really got to him. It was Monday. On Wednesday, he began to pace, pondering around their Malibu cottage regarding whether becoming married meant give away his liberty. He even made a call to his beau. My brother was crying. He took Susan to a breezy place on Thursday. Zuma Beach. He produced a turquoise, took a ring off his trousers and made a proposal. They get married on June 5th. 5 days later, 1977. A tiny wedding took place in a garden with her pastor, a Lutheran. Later, Jeff claimed that her advice had saved his life because he might have continued to drift without them till everything broke down. However, head and float, he recalled Paradise Valley and his feelings about it. Though the morning following their initial dance, he and Susan had visited a historic farmhouse close to River Yellowstone. "He let me," he said, to demonstrate to his father his concern for not more than peace but activity. Next, in 1981, Tron arrived. He was 31 when he stood in front of something he was unable to comprehend. The only 15 digital effects were employed in the film, 20 minutes, yet it seemed as though the future had come. Disney said was off limits to animators. They were concerned that computers will steal their. The Academy declined to put it forward. Regarding visual effects, as they stated it was cheating to use computers. Jeff was saying, in the course of practices, he had then questioned the director about whether computers could actors should also be replaced. What you observe in the movie, his tense, anxious expression, his wasn't pretending. He was frightened. Helleter made a joke about Tron forcing him to glance over his shoulder each time he came across a screen of a computer. In 1984, things became. Starman had to perform, and aliens are learning how to move like us. Hugh pits out all his habits. No bending, no slouching, and meaningless blinking as well. He trained under a dancer to gain the movements correctly and stayed for 15 days. Gradually gaining humanity on screen. It was praised by critics. He received an Oscar nomination. However, he later didn't felt like himself. He made a treatment appointment, simply to keep in mind who he was. He left weekly in Santa Monica for about a year looking for the real Jeff once more. He and Glenn filmed Jagged Edge in 1985, Close. The movie was sultry, and everybody was discussing the scene at the beach house. The photos were published by the tabloids. Suzanne wasn't overjoyed. Following a decade of on-set Jeff flirting, this one went too far. One more, she said to him, like that, and I'm finished. Friends stated that dinners became tense. Individuals create jokes that didn't amuse her. Later, Jeff claimed that the film nearly caused a rift in the house. The testing wasn't limited to movies. Their union, while shooting in opposition to Despite Everything in 1983 and 1984, Jeff was frequently by themselves on a Mexican set. Reporters began equating him with Paul Newman and Dreadford Robert. He was affected by the pressure. 2011 saw him finally acknowledge that he was drinking a much at the time late nights, tequila, and heat. A single magazine, the author even witnessed him throw up during an According to Jeff, that was the time when drinking became it began managing his timetable. Next, the fabulous Baker Boys arrived. The film was cast at the beginning of 1988. Jeff requested him to study jazz piano in the hopes that he may change to live music if everything didn't. At 5 in the morning, he awoke for teachings. He imitated Evans Eve and miming 2 soundtracks was practiced. He put up a lot of effort. However, on the 13th of October 1989, when the film came out, it was a huge hit. Nominated for Oscars, excellent reviews. It was adored by all. Rather than providing him an escape, the movie further imprisoned him. Enter the world of Hollywood. Later, Jeff chuckled and claimed ownership of the piano. Escape plan. But one chord went haywire. One at a time. In 1990's summer, Jeff Bridges discovered that he was facing Robin Williams. On the Fisher King set, Robin was improvising while burning. After take, occasionally 20 consecutive. Jeff had no idea what would happen next. In the midst of the Bowery at night, Robin started a crazy 3-minute tirade about nights in the Middle Ages. Jeff stopped, unable to locate his cue. He left around 2:15 in the morning, discovered a payphone, dialed his spouse Susan. He informed her that he felt he may need therapy since he is shaken. Studio records subsequently revealed that the insurance covered on July 27th for a single emergency session, $1,990 after 60 years of performing. It was the only instance in which Jeff charged therapy to him. On March 6, 1998. 8 years later, theaters began showing The Big Lebowski. It didn't turn a lot of money, not initially. However, by midnight screenings in 2002 were crowded. Lines were yelled back at the screen by fans. Jeff found it amusing. Then things become strange. In 2005, on April 20th, a spoof Judaism emerged as a religion. Inside it had more than 600,000 throughout 10 years. Self-proclaimed clergymen. At a gathering in Los Angeles, people waited in line in 2007 to ask Jeff to God bless their white Russians. Later, he acknowledged that the entire situation scared him. Out. It was flattering, he remarked, but some people pretended that he lived in thought bathrobe. He stopped attending Lebowski in 2008. Celebrate strangers even attempted to go with him into the restrooms. In 1999, when the DVD was released, his girls didn't find it impressive. Haley was 16, Jessica was 16, and Isabel was 18. Was 14 years old. Abruptly, their companions possessed the stickers are all over this guy. During a meal on May 21, 1999, they handed a handwritten list to Jeff Thewe. It's strange that They informed him that school children fun of them for using profanity. They pleaded with him to acquire a desk job. Jeff retained that note, like other dads. In an interview conducted in 2014, years later had displayed it with pride. His toughest there were always naysayers at home. In the year 2000, he attempted something different. He contributed to the creation of a political drama called The Contender. He desired greater authority over his own initiatives, but things didn't work out as DreamWorks purchased the movie and cut it again. Gary Oldman and his production, their companion, was incensed. They asserted the Democrat message was promoted by the updated version. There were headlines. $20 was the budget. Million. Only $17.9 million was made. While pretending to be president, Jeff spent avoiding political fire most of the time. He later stated in interviews that the stress almost ruined the fun of performing. You've discovered that making a movie about politics may quickly exhaust you. In 2009, Jeff nearly declined the position that would bring him an Oscar. Crazy Hearts said that The Tale of a Nation in Disarabat Blake as a singer. Jeff declined at first. He had had enough of Damaged Men. Director Scott Cooper pleaded with him for several weeks. Jeff didn't say yes until Burnett T-Bone joined the project. He consented, but only if he was able to perform his own music. The movie cost $7 million to produce and generated $39.5 million. It took home 40 major honors. Jeff stated that the mere thought of it causes him that close call still haunts me. Him. One grudging yes was altered. Everything during the 2010 Oscars. He held that golden statue. At last a breakthrough occurred. He expressed gratitude to his parents who passed away. His voice broke. He referred to as the groovy profession of acting, that the words sounded unrehearsed. Speech. They were authentic. He joked backstage that winning wouldn't get rid of the man. In his heart, he was aware that it was true. For the majority of people, that it appeared to be a joyful moment. However, for those it sounded like relief to those who knew him. He was at last at ease after 40 years. But if everything. Later that year, the High was given the lead by the Coen brothers in Genuine Grit. They desired that he play Cogburn Rooster. Jeff never once said no, but 3 times. He was unable to halt pondering John Wayne. The part frightened him. The Coens pledged that were not remaking the movie from 1969. They were filming the novel. Following the shoot, he acknowledged an thing that took everyone by surprise. He claimed that declining them had been one of the most significant errors of his life. Though the movie received 10 nominations for Oscars. Critics praised his more sinister rendition of Rooster. It demonstrated that even myths may distrust themselves. However, occasionally encountering something memorable emerges from the shadow. Jeff had a dream in 1994. He desired to create a film titled The Giver. Additionally, he wanted Lloyd Bridges, his father, to perform the front. For this reason, he purchased their rights in that year. However, studios didn't have faith in him. Teenagers. They said Walden wished to view a movie in which the primary character was a man in his 60s. Jeff remained persistent. When Harvey finally Weinstein consented to finance it by 2013, Jeff had grown into thorough intended for his dad. He grinned and stated he got the correct number after waiting. Of creases. Following 7,319, The Giver was published in August 15 of 2014. The film made $12.3 million throughout its first weekend. It wasn't popular, but for Jeff, it was a new beginning as well as a conclusion. That script has been revised 18 times by him. He had collaborated with 4 distinct directors and it was completed at last. However, his life was more than just movies. When Jeff was just 34 years old in 1983, began a completely separate project. End Hunger Network is a non-profit organization. Although he was viewed as a cinematic star, Halliburton in secret to combat child starvation. He was present at the national press in 2010. Club and stated that around 17 million children and Americans were starving when they went to bed. This work is eternally referred to as penance. Whining about the issues in Hollywood while kids went without meals. Over 40 years, his team pushed 5 significant patriation costs. In 2015, he even published an album of ambient music titled Slept Tapes and handed over the $80,000 and earned to prevent child hunger. Even when advertisements for films such as True Grit, he'd remain behind to speak with Lamaka Stregeting summer meal initiatives.